2020. Basketball in isolation. The 2019 to 2020 season of the NBA faced an abrupt stop as the league's operation was put to a grand halt in March 2020. But by the time it returned, the game of basketball wasn't the same anymore. The cheering fans and crowds were absent from the arena, and this time, physical contact was an all-time skeptical. At this time, there seems to be more pressure on the players, but there were the good and bad side effects of it on teams. Shooting numbers increased significantly, while role players thrived on the court, but without the fans. The impression of depth changed dramatically. With this new reality, the bubble average rose above 35.9% as players improved on their three-point shooting. On the other side of things, while certain teams were able to adjust, others fell apart than they could imagine. The Lakers were part of the teams that adapted to the new reality faster than others. LeBron James led the league with a 10.2 assists per game. While during the playoffs, Anthony Davis averaged 27.7 points per game and torched drop coverage with mid-range shots that defenses typically would bait. On the other end, Miami outlasted teams that depended on emotion by arriving more on mobility and conditioning. The lack of travel due to the COVID-19 virus eliminated excuses in all forms. There were no elevation swings, no aggressive or hostile crowds. Every game felt neutral, thereby exposing teams with preparation deficiencies. Young talents such as Jamal Murray exploded during this time. Murray averaged 24.4 points in the bubble playoffs, with two 50-point performances. That jump never entirely translated subsequently, demonstrating how bizarre the atmosphere was. With the harsh reality, the championship felt earned, despite a severe disconnection. There was no parade, no time spent together, just a silent trophy raised. It was, no doubt, the most noiseless arena season the league had ever experienced in the modern era of the NBA. 2011 to 2012, a sprint, disguised as a marathon. The atmosphere in 2011 to 2012 was different despite the lockout and shortened season. The league was on the verge of disarray at this time. Teams were subjected to play 66 games over the course of 124 days, including severe periods of 4 games in 5 nights. It was almost impossible to have an efficient scoring ability with the stress of the season, but some star players like LeBron found their way around it. He made everything quite simpler after the collapse of the 2011 finals, as there were fewer lepers and increased rim pressure. He went on to shoot 53.1% from the field and averaged 27.1 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 6.2 assists per game. Despite many rotation changes, Miami finished first in the league with 46 victories. The 2011 to 2012 season was quite challenging as contenders were defined by their injuries. Derrick Rose had an MVP season before tearing his ACL in the opening round. The Bulls, on the other hand, took first place and disappeared overnight. Oklahoma City was able to manage to stay young enough to keep up with the speed. Despite having lineups that hardly practiced, Kevin Durant scored 28.0 points per game to win his 3rd consecutive scoring title. Compared to the regular season of the league, the playoffs seemed quieter and cleaner. As Miami defeated Oklahoma City in 5 games, the victory felt more like a survival rather than a supremacy. 1998 to 1999, the season nobody could find a rhythm. If there was any season that felt rushed in the 90s, the 1998 to 1999 NBA season was the season. It was an intense season for teams, as training camps, preseason, and half of the regular season were all lost due to a lockout. Teams were unable to warm up before launching into a 50-game sprint. There was hardly any chemistry with teammates, as games appeared slow and heavy. The scoring system on the other end broke down to its lowest, as the league average fell to 91.6 points per game, the lowest in the season. During this period, pacing was slow because playbooks were lacking, and offenses had to rely on isolation. It still seems unbelievable that the Knicks advanced to the finals as the 8th seed, barely above 500 at the end of the regular season. They finished 27-23 before catching fire as everyone else faded. Young teams found it difficult to cope, unlike the veteran teams, as the harsh reality of the season made it obvious that experience was more important than skill. The league had recently lost its center of gravity with the retirement of Michael Jordan. Throughout the playoffs, Tim Duncan and David Robinson intimidated a weary Western Conference, keeping opponents to fewer than 85 points per game, despite having one of the most impressive postseason campaigns ever. And San Antonio's 15-2 record was never acknowledged. It was a tough time for fans, as they were detached as TV ratings went downwards, and the arena felt tense as opposed to the electric vibes it gives. The season ended on a more quiet note than the usual finale. 2004 to 2005. Freedom through a whistle. The league was rewired in 2004 to 2005 by a single rule change. Defenders were no longer able to direct ball handlers with contact, and hand-checking on the perimeter was strictly enforced. The impact of this was felt right away. Within a short time frame, scoring increased, while pacing also quickened, and guards had more clout. During this time, Steve Nash averaged 15.5 points and 11.5 assists per game, thereby winning the MVP, and led Phoenix to 62 victories with early attack and relentless movement. And the league had to react in real time because the Suns fired effortlessly before defenses could set, and conventional defenses found it difficult to find their balance. Teams lost points because they were unable to stop the dribble penetration compared to the prior years. The league offensive rating increased significantly to 106.1. At this point, Ben Wallace was no longer the pillar of Detroit's paint domination when they returned. The series relied more on execution rather than intimidation, even though San Antonio won the championship, and Tim Duncan averaged 20.6 points and 14.1 rebounds per game. It seemed insignificant in comparison to the league-wide style change. From that moment onwards, the league embraced perimeter and never looked back. 1976 to 1977, when the league changed overnight. The NBA was different when the 1976 to 1977 season began. The talent pool in the league abruptly expanded when 4 ABA teams joined the league. Immediately, the style changed faster. When Julius Erving joined the 76ers, he immediately became the most watched player in the league, while the Denver Nuggets arrived with an unparalleled average of more than 112.6 points per game for a new team. He went on to redefine above-the-rim offense while averaging 21.6 points. The league was shocked by the outcome, as at the time defenses were mainly geared for post play at the time, not slicing wings, and the regulations were out of date. Bill Walton laid the groundwork for a system based on mobility and trust, and Portland took advantage of the chance. The Blazers dominated the postseason, finishing 49-33, while Walton went ahead to average 18.5 points, 19.0 rebounds, and 5.2 assists in the 1977 playoffs, thereby dominating the game without pushing shots. At this point, it was more than just a tactical victory. It seemed like a philosophical one. There was a seemingly increase in attendance, and TV viewers' interest skyrocketed. This was after years of stagnation. The league seemed vibrant once again, but the changeover was still a shambles as financial problems persisted, and few ABA stars never changed. It was at this point the modern era of the league began. If you enjoy this kind of NBA content, subscribe to the channel. Thanks. 1986 to 1987, when scoring lost its ceiling. The 1986 to 1987 NBA season didn't go overboard, it simply leaped right in. Teams scored 109.9 points per game on average, which is among the highest totals in the history of the NBA. At the time, there was defense, but it was not really required. But the scale was broken by Michael Jordan. He scored the most points per game since Wilt Chamberlain, averaging 37.1. While playing defense, he scored 3,041 points and led the league in steals, 2.9 per game. Even though Chicago only won 40 games, Jordan's season seemed more significant than the standings. Despite it not looking sustainable, it still did occur. Boston used a distinct offensive strategy before it became a widely accepted concept. The Celtics went on to use patience and spacing in their play. With an average of 28.1 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 7.6 assists per game, Larry Bird went on to finish second in the league MVP voting, despite hitting an incredible 42% from three. Showtime efficiency, and not force, was the sole reason the Lakers won the championship. They didn't get to overwhelm teams, they simply surpassed them. That very season straddles two different periods. It was too quick for the past and too loose for the future. It is still considered as the most noisy statistical season in the history of the league. During this season, numbers felt inflated as the franchise couldn't stop scoring. 1979 to 1980, the year the line changed everything. 1979 saw the quiet introduction of the three-point line, which gave the season an experimental ground. Players didn't have faith in it, and coaches were not used to it, while the majority of franchises saw it as an odd addition. On average, teams made fewer than 3 three-pointers in a game. There were nights when there was not a single deep shot. Even though it wasn't intentional, the space was important. At this point, lanes for driving emerged. The biggest change was made by the league's rookies. The fact that Magic Johnson and Larry Bird joined the league simultaneously highlighted their creativity and flexibility. Magic played the center role in the finals as a rookie and went on to average 18.0 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 7.3 assists. The league felt marketable again after the Lakers won the championship. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar went on to win the MVP with an average of 24.8 points and 10.8 rebounds per game, proving that the seasoned guard was still important in the grand scheme of things. At this point, the three-point line was still new to the league, but it was rapidly evolving even if no one could completely comprehend what it was becoming. 2006 to 2007, pace without control. The NBA season of 2006 to 2007 went swiftly, but it was rarely orderly. The league appeared to be faster on paper. As things became shorter, early offensive tactics in the league gained popularity. Many teams actually outperformed their own framework. However, Phoenix served as the blueprint here, but many other teams couldn't keep up with the momentum. Steve Nash went on to lead the Suns to 61 victories with his consistent ball movement and quick choices, thereby averaging 18.6 points and 11.6 assists. They were strategic about their game plan, which resulted in deliberate spacing, rapid reads. Everyone else in the league attempted to match their tempo without fully grasping the balance, but before they could understand, these teams fled, and their turnovers increased, while their defensive recoveries disappeared. Kobe Bryant, on the other hand, wholeheartedly embraced his scoring domination. He went on to average 31.6 points per game and has 10 50-point outbursts in the 2006 to 2007 season and a famous streak of 4 consecutive games with 50-plus points. That very season, the Lakers were no doubt unstable, but each night on the court felt tense. On some games, they were explosive. On the others, they were a shadow of themselves. They were simply unpredictable, as you never can tell which side of them was dominating a particular game. Defenses in the league found it difficult to adapt, while help rotations were often delayed. And in no time, fouls piled up in order to endure periods of instability. Coaches, on the other hand, shortened their leads in order to survive the chaos that was coming. On some nights it was thrilling, and on some others it was totally confusing. The playoffs were the most pivotal point of the season. In 7 games, the 8th-seeded Golden State stunned a Dallas club that had won 67 games. The 2006 to 2007 season was no doubt full of enthusiasm. It was uncontrolled. Despite the league having not yet mastered safe stopping at the time, it didn't stop progressing. 1993 to 1994, basketball without its shadow. There was a void left by Michael Jordan's retirement that no one could fill. The 1993 to 1994 season was slower, more subdued, and strangely democratic. There was no obvious antagonist, no set favorite. It felt bland. Within a short time, scoring declined tremendously, while the level of isolation rose and defenses became more self-assured. Hakeem Olajuwon went on to seize the moment. He averaged 27.3 points, 11.9 rebounds, and 3.7 blocks per game, and was named MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP. Houston was one of the first franchises to take advantage of the inside out. The Knicks' perseverance and defense got them to the season finals. After 7 games, Game 7 of the finals ended 90-84. It wasn't as exciting as it used to. It was tense. Fans made adjustments to the new reality, but something was still lacking. Highlights didn't ignite anymore, and the league required a main focus. That very season proved the NBA could survive without Jordan, but it simply struggled. 2013 to 2014, the season the ball stopped sticking. In 2013 to 2014, the Spurs did not dominate the league. It was basically dissolved by them. Their strategy was weapons turned out to be passing, and movement became a danger. San Antonio led the league with an average of 25.2 assists per game, while no one scored 30 points on average. Everybody simply made contact with the ball. They went ahead to shoot over 52% as a team, and defeated Miami by an average of 14 points per game in the finals. The league kept a careful eye on everything, and all of a sudden, isolation seemed out of date. With continuous motion, the Heat's physical defense was unable to keep up while guarding LeBron James in the finals. Kawhi Leonard quietly rose to prominence with an average of 17.8 points. The 2013 to 2014 season became a season of learning. Teams realized that tempo and stars had little bearing on efficiency on the court. It has to do with choices, the prior pass, and preemptive action. The Spurs went on to set a standard that the league followed.